back to the channel. We are Carly and Julia SoulTwins. And in case you are new to the channel, Julia and I are sisters, currently based in Australia. We've had a lot of questions about that. And our next guest, we've actually been working with for coming up on 2 years, actually. So we've done a lot of work with our next guest. She's a friend of ours. She's also an intuitive energy healer and founder and director of the Aramis Creative Learning Center, which we'll talk more about later on because we're involved with that too. It's Sherri Divband. Hey, Sherri.
Hi, thanks for having me back. It's we've had a little bit of a break, but it's nice to see you two again.
We actually worked out that this was our 16th chat with you.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for a while. So
How many has it been?
16.
Wow.
Yeah.
For anyone new to the channel, we started back in 2021. I think it was around mid-2021. We're still going. And of course, now we're also working on the Aramis Creative Learning Center project. And part of all of that, if you don't know who we are and how we all relate and come together, so it's a great story. And we'll talk a little bit more about the progress of the center later on and some great online classes that we have coming up.
And I think today, Sherri, we wanted to start off with just the journey of a Starseed series. We've been loving that series and been fascinated with your guests, and I'm sure the audience has as well. And we just wanted to pick your brain a little bit and just dive a little bit deeper on the inspiration for doing the series, what you wanted to bring to the audience through that, and also any new learnings that you've come across through speaking to these different people that you may have not necessarily come into contact with if you hadn't done the series.
Yeah, I love this. I love this question that you guys are bringing up right now, because I think now more than ever before, people are asking, what's a starseed? It comes up all the time. I'm asked quite a bit, and I see a lot of interviews where people are talking about, what is a starseed and what does that mean? And am I a starseed? And I think that now is the time to get this information out. And, the way I work, I'm usually divinely inspired. And once I have an idea, I have to do it like right then. I have zero patience. And the idea literally came to me. I'm not exaggerating. It came to me about a week and a half before I did the first episode. It came like all of a sudden it came in my mind, and I said, I need to interview starseeds that are living this, that can go out and share their experience with the world. And in my mind, it started out with children. I said, I need to have these because I talk to children every day. And I tell their stories. And I thought to myself one day, wouldn't it be nice for people to hear these children speak for themselves, or perhaps the parents speak on their behalf? So it's not always me talking, because sometimes I'm like, I think people might be tired of me speaking. So I thought I would love to have some other perspectives, and these children have the opportunity to speak for themselves. And I had in mind the first guest that I would love to have on, and he ended up being the second guest, Shebby, who is a miraculous young man, and I'm a big fan of his. And he agreed to come on, and he shared his story, and his mom came on with him. And that ended up being the second episode. But really, he was one of the first people I had thought of. And I reached out and I asked his mom if he would want to be on. And he was so excited and thrilled to come. And so then I interviewed Elsa Dillon, who is a family of 8 children, and they live in Australia, and they're fantastic. We just filmed the second interview. And and excuse me, I thought it would also be nice to have the perspective of the parents to show, what the journey is like for the parents that have starseeds. So then I expanded my vision a little bit, and I thought, you know what, I'm opening it up to starseeds in general, any age, parent or not. Tell me your story, because I think that there's such a stigma that we have had previously in this society about these types of woo-woo experiences or extraterrestrial experiences where people are made fun of. And this has been the difficult journey of a starseed for hundreds of years. I'm talking with starseeds or thousands of years when they first started coming in, but really more modern day within the last 100 years, I would say, that Dolores Cannon would speak about. There were a lot of challenges because they felt like they were outcasts and they had no one to talk to. And so we're at a point now where we need to talk about these things. It's becoming more normalized. And the way that's becoming more normalized is that we're out and people are brave enough to come and tell their story, so that someone listening could be inspired by what they have to say. And they can say to themselves, oh, that happened to me too. Oh, I've seen that. I've seen these beings, or this is happening to me as well. And that little girl or boy or even adult has never had anybody that they could tell that any of that to, because they felt embarrassed or they didn't want to be made fun of. So I thought, I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to bring people on that are willing and to share their story. And it happened so fast that I had, excuse me, sorry, I'm suffering from a little bit of a cold. I had the first 10 people lined up within the first week. That's how fast things happen. Now, I didn't interview them all in the first week, but I had them like ready to go. I had an intro video that I worked with. My dear friend Tyler Koala from Journey to Truth, he helped me put together an intro video. Everything aligned so quickly, and I have so many more that are reaching out to me, and I just feel like this is a divine inspiration that the universe said this is a need that we have, and I somehow decided to raise my hand and volunteer to help be a part of that. But I have already learned a lot. I think the more fascinating thing is not so much about what I have learned, but what everyone else is learning and the reaction that I'm getting from these interviews. So many people are reaching out, both parents, and I've had youth reach out and say, "Oh, thank you so much for having this person on, or this girl or this guy, because it really helped me. Thank you so much. I can't wait for more of your guests to come on." And it makes me feel really good, because I feel like, okay, I did this for a reason, and it's not a waste of my time, and it's not a waste of their time. And the reaction is positive. So instead, we always worry, oh, the comments might be negative, or someone might say, oh, they're, crazy. But no, it's not happening, because people are ready and they're thirsty for this information. And so I've had a lot of fun putting it together, and who knows who's going to come, down the line. But I have so many that are kind of lined up that there isn't enough time in the day and the week for me to interview all these people. But I'm having a lot of fun, because I don't really like to interview. That's not really my thing. I prefer to be asked questions, because that's more my element, where I can just share what I know. It's a lot harder to be on the other side and like plan things out. So man, like hats off to you two and all the people out there that have podcasts, because it's really challenging, and it's a lot more stressful for me to plan out something that I want everybody to like have a really positive experience. It's easier for me to just sit back and talk about what I know. So there have been some challenges, but I'm having a lot of fun. And I think that I think it's something for us to focus on right now that's positive, instead of all of this negative narrative and the fighting and this. I don't even want to get into all of that. I'm trying to bring people their focus and their attention to something else that might inspire them. And even if it doesn't inspire them, maybe it activates something within them that was dormant. And so I think that it's really important right now, and I'm really having a great time doing it.
We love this series, and I love that it's real people. It's just normal, real people that are, living life on Earth, going through these experiences. It's great to have that perspective from people that would otherwise, be viewers of yours. But it's funny though, because we're kind of the opposite. Yes, we do a lot more. We have done a lot more interviewing in the past, and yes, it does take a lot of research before you get into an interview. But we find it quite hard when people interview us, because it's different for us.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, well, we're not used to talking about what we do. But yeah, we've been doing more of that lately. We do our own videos as well, of course, but we totally get where you're coming from, just the opposite end.
Yeah.
Of that.
I really like that people are being able to share these stories, and I feel like that's one of the best ways that people or the audience can learn, is through these real life stories. And it's great that you're giving these people a platform to do that, because this is how people learn. I know from my awakening as well, being able to share that now. If I had shared that with anyone 10 years ago, they would have thought I was crazy, so it's this relief in a sense. And I'm sure that your guests feel that as well when they get this time to express themselves in this way.
And as they say, a problem shared is a problem halved. So when you're actually speaking about it, you find yourself releasing a lot of that
and understanding more of how you function as well. What would be your top 5 characteristics or traits, would you say, that a starseed has?
A starseed generally has this innate feeling like they're different than other people. They don't fit in to the norms of society. They feel different inside about pretty much everything. They don't follow the norms. Sometimes they feel like they're the black sheep of the family, or they don't fit in. They think outside the box. They tend to go against the rules or the system. And they're the ones that sometimes tend to be the rebels. And sometimes they're not rebels per se, because they don't have that personality of rebellion, but they have a knowing that it's not right. And so maybe they don't speak up about it, but they feel innately that something isn't right about it. But they might keep it to themselves. So, just because you don't speak out about it doesn't mean you're not a starseed. Because not all starseeds have that, that personality, that warrior spirit, and some do. So I think that they are generally very empathic and sensitive. They're extremely sensitive, and they get what other people are going through. They have less ego. They're more humble and kind people. They love animals. They care about the planet. They care so genuinely about other people that sometimes they are taken advantage of. They would be called in our world pushovers, is the term. They're extremely sensitive and they're taken advantage of. And so they can have a really rough time fitting into this world. And actually, I'm going to tell you a life lesson that I learned that I'm going to share with you. I don't think I've shared before. Jordan, my son, who just turned 18 a couple of days ago, he is a crystal child. So he has always been the sweetest, most kind, compassionate, the nicest human being in the world. That's a crystal. They don't like confrontation. They don't like conflict. They're polite. They are even keeled. They are just so loving. And I used to say to my husband and I used to say to each other, I was 23 when I had him, so I was really young. The world is going to chew him up and spit him out. And we used to worry, and we would have conversations about it. And we would say, I worry so much for him. This world is too harsh for him. He's not going to make it in this world. He's going to have to toughen up. Well, look at where we are now. And the lesson that I learned in saying that is that is the whole entire point of him coming, and all the crystals coming, was to change everybody and to open our hearts, to soften up this world so that we don't have to live in a world that's so harsh. So instead of me wishing that he was more tough, we just allowed him to be who he is. And I saw how he would change. He changed the world around him. And that's just one person. Imagine the millions of others out there. And so starseeds are really here. They're game changers. They really know how to shift the energy in a room and heal people and make people think something different, and think outside the box, and I know that's more than 5 things that you asked for, but it's hard to sum it up to just 5, but those are the main things I think that, so when people listen to me and they say, am I a starseed? How do I know? One good point is, if you're asking me, then you probably are. If you're attracted to the title or the notion, then you likely are a starseed. You are a wise being that's intelligent and advanced, and you're here to be a pioneer, a way shower, an architect, an innovator of the new world, and you are here for a reason. And so most people who think they are, and those that don't know what it is are probably not, or they're just not awakened to it just yet.
Yeah, I love that you shared that about Jordan, Sherri, and the sensitivity of starseeds is really a gift. And yes, they are here, and we are here to bring this to the world and to soften people's hearts and all those things. Starseeds, like you said, are very wise, and they're very loving and giving. And a lot of the time it's been difficult because you do feel like you're taken advantage of, and then you do get down on yourself for that. And then you start not really feeling like a victim, because you're wise and you know how to sort of get yourself out of that and find the beauty in the struggle, and evolve through that. But do you feel like that's probably the hardest thing for starseeds, is that they do feel trodden on? And I guess, what is the biggest lesson for the starseed then? If we're here to bring this softness and kindness to the world and transition us into a better world, then how do we move past that sort of harshness that we're still in? Because that's something that you have to balance every single day. Like, it doesn't go away, and especially in the consciousness that we've been living in. It's quite hard to heal in that consciousness as well, because we haven't transitioned.
That's $1 million question. So you win. That's where we are. And that has been the biggest challenge, is navigating through that. And that's why starseeds play such a pivotal role in the Ascension, because they volunteered. we all volunteered to come in an environment that we knew we were not going to thrive. We would be the oddballs out, and we would be in a really challenging environment to navigate through. So where are we now? You know, I think it has a lot to do with the parents, and I think most starseeds do choose to come in with parents that are awakened and open, but that's not always the case, because sometimes their role is to awaken their parents. So that's not always the case either. But I think it's a continuous reminder that you are enough, and you came in here with characteristics that are outside of the box or the societal norms for a reason, and you have to stand up for your convictions and the things that make you you, and not let this world basically eat you up and chew you out like we thought was going to happen to our first. And I think we're all brought in with a set of characteristics, personality traits that make us all very unique and different, but are all purposeful for the role that we are going to do. I personally have always been very light spoken, very introverted, very quiet, but I was that wise kid that would talk to the adults and ask them, "Are you happy?" Like the weirdest questions, and they'd be like, "What is she asking me that for?" And I would always make people cry. And I think that it was just me utilizing the characteristics I came in with as a young child, trying to figure out that and fit in and also be myself, and to grow up and look at me now. I'm exactly how I was as a kid. I'm just older, more wiser, and more confident in what I'm saying based on life lessons that I've had. So I'm still me. I'm still the little version of me that I was. I'm just much older now. And I see how I needed those characteristics, and I see how I was as a child based on how I am now. And then you can take that with basically any personality trait that you have. And it's all about teaching our children that it's okay to be you, and to create boundaries around you. And if you feel like you're being put down, or you're being made fun of for the characteristics that you have, it's about coaching them to stand up for themselves, and that you are enough, and we don't want to break them. That was another life lesson. Number 2 was when my son Skylar came, and I think I talked to you guys about this in another interview, where his personality was the exact opposite of Jordan. He was like, he would say no. He wasn't as easy, and he expected, like, he wouldn't take no for an answer. He needed me to explain why. And I was just like, who is this kid? Like, why can't you be like Jordan? And I heard this voice in my head that said, Sherri, don't break him. Allow him to be who he is. He's asking you questions that are important. You need to listen. And I realized that that's his personality. He's very innovative. He's very analytical. He's a cognitive thinker. He's very left brain, and he needs to understand his environment. And if he has to ask 20 questions, it's not because he's being difficult. It's because he needs to know, so that he can get an understanding of the environment. That's who he is. And you know what? I see as a 10-year-old now, and I can see in the future why he does that, and it's going to play into what he does later in life. So we all have the characteristics from the time we come in, but this world has a way of suppressing it and dimming our light and shifting our focus in a different direction, so we lose those superpowers. Those are superpowers. Skylar's superpower is the questions that he asked, and how he thinks. He's a problem solver. I'm not a problem solver, but I'm more of a healer, and I solution oriented, but in a way like, how can we work together? How can we mediate and work together as a team? And other people are assertive leaders, and they need to work by themselves. They don't work well with others, and that they're like that as a child, and they have conflict their whole life. But later in life, they're going to be a great leader, and they can't be conflicted. They can't be swayed, and they can't be pressured by other people trying to push them in a different direction. So again, how they started is what they're going to need later, these qualities. So I think it's challenging for starseeds at a young age if they don't have parents that can help cultivate those superpowers. They lose themselves, and they try to bend so that they can fit in, because they don't want to be different. So they want to fit in with everybody else and do what everybody else is doing. And then they really go through this whirlwind of depression and anxiety. And then at the end, they end up rebelling against themselves and everybody else. And it's this destructive behavior that we have in this third dimensional reality. And I think that we are getting away, moving more away from that. And people are starting to finally listen to that inner voice that's telling them, you need these qualities. This is you. This is what makes Carly Carly. This is what makes Julia Julia, and Sherri, and so on. And I think that that is starting to reveal itself more and more as we break down the systems and the paradigms, and people are starting to figure out who they are at the core of them, the essence. And then they start to say, okay, now that I know what I am and who I am, I'm going to create boundaries, and then I'm going to attract more people like me so that we can work together instead of fighting with everybody. So I think that it's really uncomfortable, I think, but there's a lot of change that has been building up, and we're finally at this really beautiful space where people are finally standing up and saying, no, this is me, not because my parents said I need to be this way, not because my spouse or my boyfriend, girlfriend, or my friend or my mentor, my teachers, that this is authentically me, and I'm okay with who that is, even if everybody else is not. And it's that's where we are.
No, I love that you shared those stories about your own children too, Sherri, and thank you very much for explaining that in more detail. I wanted to talk a little bit about, there's a couple of starseed groups we wanted to focus on specifically today, and you're mentioning just now that most often starseeds will, when they come into the earth, they actually choose a family or parents that are, deemed awake, or they're aware and they're conscious of those kinds of things. I wanted to ask a question, and we have spoken about this in some previous videos. I wanted to talk about the divine children. Now, you were mentioning that they were coming in from, I think it was 2019. And predominantly they will be coming in between now and 2023. And we spoke a little bit about this off air just now. So I wanted to get your clarification on that, because obviously the reason for them coming to the planet right now is to help us with the ascension, to help us where we're at right now, where the collective is at right now. We need their assistance in doing that. So can you just speak into that a little bit more? And just as we spoke off air, just clarify a little bit more about why the divine children are coming, and that period, that window that you gave, that 2019 to 2023, just clarify that, and does it actually extend out? Will we see more of the divine children coming to the planet beyond that time frame?
That's a really good point. And so the divine children is something that came to me. It's an oversoul group. It's a soul group that are coming in between 2019 and 2023. And I learned about them probably in 2000. I want to say it was like 2018. I heard about this group coming in, and they are spiritually advanced, ascended, and already ascended enlightened beings that are coming from all over the galaxy, and also from inner Earth and different dimensions from this planet as well, to assist us in moving forward in the ascension. And they could only come in between this window because, for a lot of reasons. One, the frequency of the planet previously before that was not able to hold the light that they were going to bring forward. Because if they're coming in the thousands and thousands, then they are anchored all over the planet in perfect balance, in alignment with masculine and feminine energies, meaning male and female, but also all the females and all the males come in with balanced masculine and feminine energies. They're positioned all over the world. So they're not just like in the United States or in Canada or Australia. They're everywhere. They're being born everywhere. And what they do is they anchor in a frequency that could not be held before 2019 on this planet. We weren't ready for it for many reasons. And so what I was told is at 2019 was the marker point of which the Earth herself, Terra herself, would reach a frequency to hold that energy first. And the physical bodies, or because of the collective ascension of the awakened ones that have been here and that were already awake, their densities were starting to shift into a higher density. and it was propelling and pulling up the density of the collective. Because if we have a large percentage of the population that are awake, that are bringing in more light and anchoring it into the planet, then that can have a vibrational ripple effect that can then affect people around, and help awaken them, and then therefore raise their vibration and their frequency. And so the physical body started to change. And this has been happening for a while. So this is a shift that's been occurring for probably 20 years. And so our bodies finally also, physical bodies, these avatars also reached a point around the 2019 mark where the beings that were going to inhabit these bodies would be able to be in a body. So the bodies had to advance, the frequency of the planet had to rise. Does that make sense? So it's two different things. And also the mothers that are carrying these children had to be ready. Their bodies had to be ready. So they would have had to have gone through a similar or some sort of spiritual awakening and a shift in their physical body. So many of them have had miscarriages, and they couldn't hold the pregnancy because there's too much frequency of the being coming through. So then they told me that the way they work around that is that they would have an etherical pregnancy. So there would be a unification of energy between the mother and the being 9 months to a year before the conception even took place. So it would give time for the mom to integrate with the soul, the energy of that soul for quite some time. So it would start to blend in with the mom's energy field. And then when the energy field of the mom could hold it, then the conception would take place. And then slowly the integration of light would come through. It wouldn't come in all at once. And then even after they're born, it takes up to 6 years from what I'm told for them to really fully bring in all of their light, and maybe even longer. So they're bringing in a lot of light, and our physical bodies have to be prepared for it through the density that we're in, meaning less carbon, more crystalline. And the environment has to hold this energy as well. So a lot of things had to occur in order for these guys to come through, which is why it's such a big deal. And why I have been saying for many years, I personally, my anchor point that my validation for me, that we are moving forward and things are advancing, and a sign that things are still good, despite what we may see or not see, is that they're still coming in, and they wouldn't be able to come in if we hadn't reached the point of ascension of no return. They would not be able to come in because we would still be anchored in 3D, and they would never be able to survive in these bodies. They wouldn't even be able to these women wouldn't even get pregnant. So that is a sign to everybody that we are at the point of no return, and we have been since 2019. And I know that seems odd, because we went through a really rocky period. But what I was told is that they needed to come in during that period because it was going to be so dark because of what we went through. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, that their light was what was a big reason why we were able to combat the darkness, because they came in with so much light that it raised the frequency, and it could have been a lot worse than it was. I hope I'm making sense. So where are we now? There are probably thousands of them all over the world. I know personally, and I have met only a few. But again, my clients are all over the world, so it's hard for me to be in the same city as one. But I personally have met a few. I know many that have carried. So we're at 2023. We're about a year behind, and the window is still open. And actually, I want to admit to everybody this is happening in real time, because these two lovely ladies asked me this question before we started. I said, I don't know if there's an extension. And as you guys were talking, right before I answered, right before you asked me the question, I got the answer. So what they're just told me is that they're still coming through because the window is still open, because we are roughly about a year behind, and the portal is still open, and they are still coming through, and they likely will come through till 2025. So I just got that answer literally within the last 5 minutes. So, and I didn't know that. So that's new information for me. So it seems as though we are moving forward, but a window is continuing to stay open, so that perhaps it could be a lot of reasons that there were also setbacks. Perhaps the mothers that signed on to have these children, for whatever reason, we can guess many things that could have been, were delayed and they weren't able to bring them in. And now they're finally able to, so they needed to extend the window. There could be a lot of other reasons for it. That's one big one. or the families wouldn't be able to have another family member, because a lot of these babies come in two ways. They are the third or the fourth child, the last child, some of them unexpected. And that's because they need the mothers to be a little bit older so that they are prepared, because these children, again, they're going to be different. Or they are the first of an older mom that likely may not have other children. So there's a specific formula that they seem to come in on. And I think it has a lot to do with the dynamics. So they're quite multidimensional. They have a connectivity, a collective consciousness within themselves, so they can communicate, and which is why they are what we call, many terms, untouchable, what's the other word? Uncorruptible. Basically, what that means is because they are all, let's say, metaphorically holding hands with each other all over the world, they cannot be infiltrated. They cannot be taken down by the dark, because the dark will target one at a time. If they see Sherri coming, they're going to attack Sherri or everyone around Sherri. But they can't do that to these beings because they are connected. So if you take one down, you got to take them all down. And that's not possible. So they have a very secure protective mechanism around them, the grid of energy, which also makes them untouchable. That's why they are unable to be infiltrated in this environment. And I did an interview recently with part 2 in my Journey of a Starseed series with Susan Oros. We talked about the jewels of autism, and you guys know me very well. I don't like labels at all. I really resonate with her message and her experience with her own daughter, who is of the autistic collective. And what they're saying is these divine children are probably one of the first groups that have been able to come in and almost fully integrate, because the reason we have the autistic children is they don't want to be infiltrated by the 3D. So they don't integrate their body fully. They stay outside of the body as much as possible so that they don't get taken down by the vibration, the toxins, the environment, the noise, the dark, all of it. So they stay up here, their body's here, and the reason they can't function their body at the control that we can, because they're not completely in it, and they do that on purpose to stay safe. Now the newer ones coming in, they are doing that, and they are still safe. They figured out a way, basically, was what I'm saying, for them to come in but still stay safe and not be infiltrated. That's huge. That's huge progress. That is showing that we have advanced so far that now they can bring in their light, not be infiltrated. They're fully protected, but they're also fully connected. Like, if this isn't proof or a sign that we're moving in the right direction, I don't know what people want. To me, it's more solidifying than dates that are being given by various groups of people. This is, to me, it's more proof that we're moving forward than any dates that come and go, or signs that things are happening in the physical, as far as political events or this event or that event. To me, this is a sign that things are really progressing.
I love this topic. Like,
I love that,
I'm so glad you asked that, and Sherri, getting that download in the middle of it. Like, I just,
it was funny.
that.
It was funny because we were discussing points earlier in the week of what we were going to talk about today, and this is something that just has been just nagging away at me. I just kept tapping into it all the time and thinking, I feel like maybe this window of time might extend with these children coming in, and that's what I was sort of getting the feeling of. This has just been on and off since we spoke about it. Oh, way back in one of our previous videos.
Yeah. Maybe our first video.
That's right. Yeah,
our first video.
And then we talked about it early in the week, and I spoke to Julia, and we weren't even sure if we were even going to ask you the question, because we weren't even sure if you would even have an update, or if it was just a firm kind of time frame. But no, I'm so glad we did, because that was what I was tapping into, and amazing that you got that through right then and now. So obviously I was meant to ask you that question. You were meant to communicate that. So that's amazing, and makes a lot of sense.
And I think also, Sherri, I remember you saying that the divine children have a way of instantly healing people. Like, if they're in the presence of, say, their grandfather or something like that, they have this way of instant healing.
Yes. They have a frequency or a code, a signature, a frequency. And when they come in contact with somebody's energy field, they can imprint or leave this almost like a energetic imprint. I don't know how to describe it. And it has a lasting effect. Now, of course, there's free will involved, so they're not going around just imprinting on people that don't want it. It's an energetic exchange. And if the person is open to it, then they will implant this at their energy, and it will start to shift and heal their frequency by removing blockages, decoding negative implants that they may have. I mean, it's crazy what they're able to do. They're just little healers on wheels, and they can heal so many people. But I want to be specific. I don't want people to get a false idea. These children, you can't just, I don't want people lining up in the store trying to hold people's children like they're going to heal me. It is a conscious, I'm sorry, not a higher consciousness connection between two souls that have an agreement. So if the other soul is not in alignment with their healing, or perhaps they need to be in dis-ease longer in order to learn a lesson, then these divine children aren't going to heal you because you don't want it. I hope that's clear. It's those that are ready for it, that resonate with the frequency of their energy that they're giving off, that it's an exchange. And that's how it works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. Actually, I probably said it in a way it was like they just go around healing everyone, but yes, it's that soul contract of when it's the right exchange or the right people coming together. I just wanted to touch on, maybe also the audience might want to comment on this as well if they've experienced it. When you talked about sort of 2018, 2019, this kind of time frame, Carly and I both talked about this many, many times.
Pressure on the body.
Yeah, the pressure.
It's almost like we feel it a lot in our stomachs.
Yeah.
And just various parts of the body, but quite often in the stomach area.
The 3D still being quite a toxic place for us all to be existing in, and people's allergies are coming out more. Do you feel like
and getting sick?
Yeah, and getting sick more. Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're not at a higher frequency ourselves. It's just that we're not still matching our surroundings. And that transitional period, when do you sort of see that potentially ending? Because we've definitely felt it from end of 2018.
And that's a great question. I think, well, first of all, the way I see it, again, everything I say is my perspective, my opinion. I'm not saying that it's everyone's truth. So the way I see it, this has been a gradual process that we have seen, and we can look in hindsight and actually pinpoint, many people can, where they look back and say, like you just did, around 2019, I noticed this, and these changes. And I think if we did some sort of a census around the world, we would see a large numbers of averages that would correlate with these shifts. And I think a lot of it started in 2012. I believe that these shifts are in alignment with frequency shifts of the planet and the collective and individually. So individual. So there's three different things happening all at the same time. We're going on our individual journeys of healing, and our frequency adjusts because of us and our healing and our releasing, etc. And then there's the environment and the collective healing of how we merge together and either pull each other up, bring each other down, and the fluctuations that come with that. And then the earth herself goes through these frequencies, the Schumann resonance, as we call it, but it's so much more than that. That's just one way that we're able to scientifically record it. So there are shifts that we go through, periods of time where we go through the most change. Some people need a dramatic thing to occur in order to push yourself. And sometimes we need help. Other times it's just a period of time and everything aligns for you, and you have this great epiphany where you just have a sudden knowing, and it's not traumatic. It's actually quite beautiful and it's euphoric. So everybody's going through those things. So that being said, because we're not all in the same schedule and we're all experiencing things at different time frames, different areas of the world, etc., we have to then merge our individual journeys and our growth with the environment that we find ourselves in. And that's where we are right now. I believe that there is a good number of the population that is in 4D, I would say there's a good divide. There's still a lot in 3D, and those are the ones that are not awake and have no idea what's going on, and life is per normal for them. Nothing's changed. Then we have the ones that are awakened, that are just beginning their spiritual healing, and the ones that have been awake for a while that are still healing are in 4D, and that's probably I would say a good number of the population is right there. And then we have those that have been awake for a while, or we're on the I call it the escalated healing path. And now they are turning around and they are really ready to be of service to others. And they are holding fifth density. So we have a lot. But they still, so let's say those fifth density people still have to interact and be with 4D and 3D people. And that's where we're in this really melting pot of mixed energy right now. And it makes it really uncomfortable for a lot of people. So a lot of the 4 and 5D people, what I'm seeing every day, and it's coming up in my sessions, is that their bodies are literally experiencing a toxic overload where they are becoming allergic to 3D. Because they have advanced so much that when they're put back in 3D, their body short circuits and they get headaches. They have horrible reactions where they get have colds back to back to back, where they have to, colds are just our body's way of releasing the toxins through coughing, sneezing, all of the things, all the symptoms, and the fever, all of that. And so people are experiencing heightened allergies, because they just constantly feel like they got to blow their nose and their body's coughing to get things out. I mean, your bodies are purging so much that it makes them feel like something wrong. Am I actually not progressing? But in reality, our bodies have changed so much that we are more crystalline, but the reaction that we have of still being in the environment of 3D is apparent, and we notice it and we can feel it. And then maybe we go back into our home, our nice little sanctuary, or we're outside in nature and we feel beautiful again. And we're like, gosh, that's so weird. I was just feeling so awful in the city. I came out to the countryside and I'm around these animals and I feel like I'm in bliss, harmony, and this is heaven. What's going on? And so we have such varying degrees of living right now, and healing and purging and allergic reactions to the environment. And some people are really sensitive to the food they're eating, or suddenly they can't drink any alcohol at all because their body they just get splitting headaches, or some of the food is too rich and they feel sick to their stomach. They're having gut issues, or they're bloating. There's inflammation in the body. These are all signs. You want me to tell you another one that is new? A lot of people are losing their vision and they're freaking out. You know who else is losing their vision? Me. I have had perfect vision my whole life, and all of a sudden, I get blurred. I start to feel blurry. I feel blurry. That's not right. My vision is blurry, and I can't see. I was freaking out about it, and then I was talking to all these clients of mine, and they're experiencing it too. And I was like, I need to get to the bottom of this. And what they told me is that our vision is changing, so that when we're in 5D, the colors are going to be more vibrant. Our reality is going to look different. So our eyes are getting adjusted in preparation, because if we just close our eyes and open it in that 5D, it would be overwhelming. It would almost be like us looking into the sun, and it would be like we wouldn't be able to process it. So it's like a slow transition. So although you might feel like you're losing your sight, and I'm not telling anybody not to go to the doctor if this is happening, but this is an alternate explanation energetically of what's happening, of course. And we're being prepared for new sight, for new hearing, for eating less food. Everything in our body is changing, and it's making us feel sick and maybe even more dense. So we feel like we're actually regressing, but really we're progressing. And so there's so much going on right now that what I was told the other day is we are essentially, and again, this is metaphorically, so no one freak out, but we are essentially dying and birthing a new version of ourselves. We're dying in the 3D, and we are birthing a new version of ourselves. And I think that's a beautiful thing if you take that for what it is, and the metaphor behind it, that we are birthing a new version of ourselves in every way. And the golden thing is that historically we have been taught that in order to ascend, we literally have to die. We need to leave this body and we ascend in spirit. And this is not true. And this is the first time that we are, at least that I'm aware of on this earth, we are having the ability to ascend while still alive in these bodies, but our bodies are changing. So in essence, we are dying the old version and we're birthing a new, but we don't have to actually physically die for that to come to fruition. I hope that makes sense.
I'm so glad you touched on that, Sherri, because sometimes you do feel like you're going backwards a little bit, and it's not. You've explained that so well. It's very interesting how the environment and where you are placed also affects your body heavily. So I'm glad you touched on all of that today, Sherri. So leave comments, guys, below if you are experiencing different things as well. And
interesting about the blurry vision as well. I know that our Nana, now I will say that she's turning 100 in a week's time, I think. Can you believe she's turning 100? She thinks she's only 98, but she's actually 100. There was a bit of a mix-up with her birth certificate, but that's another whole story. But
anyway, don't tell her.
Don't tell her. Please don't tell her. No, anyone that knows Nana, don't tell her. Now she's a Pisces, so she's very psychic, probably one of the most psychic people that we know. Now she's actually been having a lot of vision issues. Now everyone would probably think, oh, she's 100. Why wouldn't she have these issues? But when you said that, initially she was the first person that came to my mind, and I'm thinking to myself, she's obviously experiencing this. Yes, it might be heightened for her because she's very elderly and she's struggling physically. But that's interesting because she obviously has insights to things that maybe other people aren't there yet. So, or I'm not saying that just because you're having blurry vision you're ascended further. I'm just saying it's just one of those symptoms that you might be experiencing. And when you said that, I was thinking of Nana. So she's obviously experiencing it too. So it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't. That's what I wanted to point out.
I wanted to maybe segue into mental wellness and self-care, because I know that you wanted to touch on that today as well.
I think this is a really important topic, and I think that because of the narrative that we find ourselves in right now, I think a big part of the ascension is using our discernment. And because there isn't a lot of movement in the physical, I believe that there's heightened energy, and there's a lot of things going on energetically to show that we are moving forward. And I think a lot of people are feeling that, and we know, oh, something's about to happen, and then we feel good about it. But in the physical reality, in this reality that we are living in these bodies, are quite the opposite in many cases. And there's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of fighting. People are running out of money. They put trust in certain things, and things aren't happening. And so they don't know what to do. They're panicking, and they're contacting me, or they're my clients, and I'm having sessions with them, and they don't know what to do. They're really struggling. And so I feel like mental wellness, mental health is a big focal point right now that we should be really paying attention to. And instead of watching hours of Netflix scary shows, or podcasts that are focusing on the negative narrative and all the dates and all these false flags and psyops and all of these things, I think it's pulling our focus away from what's important. And what we should be doing with this free time that we have right now of non-movement in the physical is we should be really going within and working on healing and grounding and connecting and finding ourselves, developing a relationship with yourself that you've never had the opportunity to do your whole life, or maybe you didn't want to because you didn't feel comfortable. A lot of this world is built upon distraction, and don't worry about that. Your friends can validate you. We get validation from everyone else. And when we have those quiet moments by ourselves, people get uncomfortable. They don't want to be by themselves, so they grab the phone. They can't even be alone with their thoughts. And that is a problem. That's where we are right now, where we need to devote time to ourselves, by ourselves, without our sister, brother, husband, wife, anybody around, so that we can have those quiet moments where we have to connect with the higher version of ourselves. And that's where the healing takes place. And it's hard to do that because there's a lot of fighting, and family members aren't getting along, and people have been kicked out of their family functions because of non-doing this, and for various other reasons. And so people have a lot of anger and resentment, and all of these things they're trying to work through. And how do you work through? How do I work through the anger that I have? How do I release the guilt? How do I forgive? And so I think this is a good opportunity right now to focus our attention on that. That's the golden ticket. If I had to guess right now of where society should be focusing their energy on, how to heal. And so we're dedicating, and we can talk about this more towards the end, but I want to dedicate the month of March because March is spring, and it's about newness. It's about new beginnings. It's about birthing a new version of yourself. So this is the perfect time to devote this month to mental health, mental wellness. And so we're dedicating this month in Aramis classes, and a lot of our classes are focused upon helping children and adults navigate through these challenging emotional times and health, and how to truly heal and go within. Because I think people get the concept of it, but then they don't really know where to start or what to do. And so I want to preface the need for us to do whatever we can right now to help people shift their focus in that direction. Because once we focus in that direction and you feel better about yourself and you have this connection, you're more motivated to say, okay, now how can I help others? How can I be of service? And you disconnect from the negative narrative and you start to think, what can I do? How can we co-create? How can we work together? But if you're still in conflict with yourself, you're always going to remain in conflict with everybody else. And that's what 3D is about. It's about me hating everybody else and being in competition with everybody else. That's what they want. But when you love yourself, then you're able to love other people. And that's where we are right now. We need to disconnect from that matrix to loving ourselves, healing, and then reaching out a hand and helping other people. And that's really where I feel like we should be focusing our energy right now and disconnecting a little bit. You don't have to turn off all of your truther videos and all of that. I think it's still nice to check in once in a while to see what's going on, but it cannot consume your time and take away from what we should be really focusing our attention right now, which is self-care and self-growth, and learning about new things that maybe are going to help you in the future. Pick up a book about self-healing. Maybe if you're going to want to watch something about a documentary on how to heal, how to connect, taking a class or two, how to ground, how to connect with crystals, how to use earth elements to heal, like something that's productive. That's really where our focus should be right now.
I love so many points that you brought up there, and we will circle back at the end of the interview and touch on some of the classes that we're offering, because they are dedicated to emotional and mental wellness. We're doing that for the month of March, and all of our classes always have that intertwined regardless, but we really did want to hone in on this. You did a focus group with parents, and this is what they were wanting, so we definitely tried to respond to that for the community. And the safest place right now really does feel like going within and just connecting in with your heart space and self-love and things like that, because it is difficult to be of service and to help other people when you haven't really helped yourself. And I think people miss that step, especially the self-love step, because it can be quite confronting and difficult for people to do that in some ways, because they have been so distracted for so long. So that you're talking about being uncomfortable in your own skin and space. Yeah, it's true. But it also takes
it's uncomfortable, it's lonely. There are difficult moments, and you just have to keep pushing through those. So.
Yeah. And I think there's that line, I think, also for people that are watching, that you need to cross, where you've got to take that action. You can't just kind of keep watching the videos or maybe even reading the book, but not actually doing it. Like, take the class and then practice it. You have to practice it on yourself. There is that step that I think a lot of people are still missing. And if you do that and you make the commitment to that, you will start seeing progress, and then you can start being of service to others, because we are going through this, like, removing of an old version of ourselves. And like you said before, Sherri, it's a birthing. It's a whole change in who we are, and it's a beautiful thing, and that is truly how we find freedom. It's not necessarily like joining this group or joining this group. You've got to find the freedom within first, to then find the people that you resonate and vibrate with, to then make really positive changes.
I think the hesitation though people might have is that it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
it's I've got to do all this work, I've got to read all this, I've got to go and watch this, or I've got to not watch this, and that
simple
sort of thing. But it is very, very simple. It's really just about, and we would advocate, and we do in all of our videos, I know you do as well, Sherri, it's just limiting your exposure to things that are going to project energy onto you. That's how I see it. And the more you limit that, the more you can be with yourself, and you have your own thoughts. You're not having someone else's thoughts. those projected thoughts onto you. And that comes from movies, it comes from music, it comes from the people that you're around. Could be your co-workers, could be neighbors, family, whatever, best friends. It can be, projections can be coming from so many different places that you're not even necessarily even aware of half the time. So yeah, we'll just say limit your exposure to that. Don't, turn off everything. If obviously we need to know it, we need to know things. As I think you were saying in your video the other day, Sherri, pick a couple of your favorite things to watch and stick with that. And because if that makes you feel good, you're probably on the right track. If you're not feeling confused and weird and a bit like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to believe? If you're getting those feelings, you're probably not tuning in with the right things. That's the best way that we can probably break it down for you. Just listen to yourself. Do you feel confused, angry, weird? Probably not good. That's the most simple way. It's not hard work. It's just listening to yourself, just listening to your body responses.
Being in this community, and you have touched on it a few times in different videos, as have we, and some of the shocking things that we've seen, within that mix, and sort of thinking, wow, I can't believe that person is that mean, or I thought everyone in the spiritual community was going to be nice and lovely, but it's not the case. It has been very shocking on many levels to experience.
Just because you didn't do this, or you have the same thoughts and feelings on certain political views or whatever, that doesn't necessarily make someone a good person. There's a lot of layers to being a decent, kind, genuine, spiritual, respectful person. There's a lot of layers to that, and we're seeing a lot of those layers kind of stripped away from people, and this goes for all areas of life, not just online. It's everywhere.
You would expect, I think, that the spiritual community would behave in a certain way, and they haven't, from a lot of things that we've seen and experienced. And that was hard to get our heads around, and I think you don't really expect that. But I did want to ask, Sherri, just your opinion. People that are just more kind by nature, by essence, like their truth, and we're all sort of discovering who we are. If you're more inclined to be that way, just in your normal essence, what do you think about the people that aren't necessarily behaving that way, and they're sort of really tapping into their sort of more darker side to themselves? Are they just by essence that, and are they going to experience an improvement in themselves? Or are they just innately not very nice people, and why are they so maybe prominent in this mix, do you think?
Well, that's a really loaded question.
I'm sorry.
No, good. It's a good question, and it's a necessary question, because I think that this is a topic that's really important right now, because it's come up and it continues to come up every single day, and it's testing people's discernment. And I think that's good, but it's challenging. And I think you made an important point in the beginning. This all started, and I think that there was a clear divide as a result of this whole thing and everything that went on. Let's just call it the narrative, okay? And in the last couple of years, there has been a clear divide in one direction or the other. Whether you're spiritual or not, political or not, the divide was still pretty clear to everybody that it started to occur. Okay, so that's one side, and then that's the other. Now, for those that went in option, whatever the other option of the category that I think we find ourselves in, then the true test of 4D came out. It's like, okay, now that you know this information, how are you going to move forward, and how are you going to heal, and what kind of a person were you to begin with before any of this happened, which is a key factor. Have you always been a kind person throughout your life, or did you have a great epiphany that changed you and you've been a certain way and that put you on a path? Like I have been very honest with a lot of people. I started out as the kindest, most gentle, beautiful person, and these experiences that happened to me, many of which turned me into this dark person. I never had ego though. That's never been my thing, but I was defensive, and I was like, I'm going to hurt everybody before they hurt me. And I wasn't the nicest person for a while. And then life put me back on track, and Jordan came into my life at 23, and I never looked back, and I've consistently been the same person since then. So it's all about who are you at the core essence of who you, of who makes you you. And that's where we are right now, this test of people that are developing these groups within this this second, third, and fourth, and fifth, and beyond group within our group is now starting to divide. We started out unified, and then we decided, oh, there's more categories within this group of you don't believe in this. I'm trying to speak in code, but you like this president, but this president is coming back, and as we unraveled the different layers of humility and integrity and spirituality, and a lot of people were spiritual bypassing and trying to skip steps. They weren't really willing to do the work, but they were certainly willing to go out and tell everybody what they need to do, but then they weren't doing it themselves. And then we created this whole narrative of people presenting themselves as in a certain way. And then behind the scenes, they were nothing like what they were presenting, but they liked the way it felt to have people look up to them. So there goes the ego. If somebody is naturally connected to their ego, they will always find a way to connect with it and then want more. I think you either have it or you don't. So the people who are really ego driven and always have been are going to be challenged by this ascension and spirituality, because at the root of it, it's all about unity, and it's less about ego. It's about how can we work together. And if you are driven by your ego and that's just who you are, I'm not saying you're bad. It's just going to be more challenging, because what happens is if you get a little bit of a power, or you get a little bit of attention, or some likes, or some money, or fame, or a following, whatever you want to call it, or all of the above, then that ego starts to kind of take over, that shadow side starts to take over, and then it influences you. And then you lose your boundaries, and you lose the incentive of why you started to begin with. What was the catalyst for this awakening for you? How did you even get to where you are now? Did you forget what that was about? Because they're so enamored by the fame and the money and everything that comes along with it, and the popularity, that they get wrapped around and they lose that. And that's where we are right now. And I think in our spiritual community, whatever you want to call it, is that a lot of people unfortunately lost their way again, and they found their way back to 3D, but they're trying to anchor themselves into this, oh, I'm here to help you. Let me help everybody. But they're clearly misguided, and they are pulling people down with them. And unfortunately, there are so many vulnerable, newly awakened people that are vulnerable to their influence. And so they're buying it. They're buying everything they're selling, literally, emotionally, and mentally. Okay, they're buying everything. And it's really causing an even more of a bigger ripple and a divide amongst our community. I hate using the word community because that's so ambiguous, but I guess community, for lack of a better term. And this is where we are right now. It's quite challenging because I think a lot of people have lost their way. And so we got to take the ego out of it and just say, how can we be of service to each other, to humanity, to ourselves, that is in the highest good? There's one thing that you can say, and if you can't align with it, then then you need to put yourself in check. And it's real simple. Is what I'm doing, or what I'm preaching, or what I'm guiding in the highest good of humanity? Yes or no? It's a simple question. If the answer is no, then you need to step back, because then you are putting your needs first, and you shouldn't be on a public platform. If you can't put other people's needs first, or you can't work as a team, you need to step back, reevaluate, do some healing, and then come back when you're ready. But people don't want to do that because they don't want to let go of the power that they have accumulated. But if you are in a highest alignment with yourself and the collective that you're working with, then you can proceed forward. I hope this is making sense. I think that is a simple way that you can test yourself every single day to make sure you're in alignment and you've got your ego in check, and then you proceed. But if there's a part of you that says, oh, I don't think so, I think that I might be a little bit more service to self right now, then you just need to recluse and take a break. You don't need to announce to the world, oh, I'm in service to self, I'm wrong. You just say, I'm taking a break. That's all you have to say. And then you regroup and you come back. But I have been shocked by the interactions that I've had with a few people that I've met that put themselves out to be something that they're absolutely not. and they are horrible to people in person. And I don't understand how they get away with it and how nobody speaks up about it. It's absolutely crazy. But this is part of I think this is part of the discernment. And I know why. I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to put anybody, it's not my job to go out and say, this person is this person is that, because I feel that this is the point of the ascension, is discernment. People need to pay attention and learn for themselves. And if you continue to give your power away to those people, then you are consenting to some level. And that is part of your lesson. And that's where we are right now. People need to learn the lesson for themselves and not be told. So people ask me all the time, what do you think of this person? And I haven't, and I will not tell anybody my opinion, because it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, is it not just my opinion? And so I don't engage in that at all.
I like the way you put that. And for the viewers, I would say, like we talked about in this chat today, it's really a matter of going within, being your safest place right now, because everyone's shifting and changing on so many levels, and it's very confusing. It's a very confusing time. So with that, you are going to find a greater connection to yourself, and then what you resonate with is going to come through clearer. So you probably will start switching off things that just don't resonate, and you don't need to really, analyze why you may be doing that, but it might just be your signal as to maybe that person's not doing things for people in their highest good. And that's your way of knowing.
Not everyone is in this for the same reasons. And, we all have what we think is the right reasons. And you were talking about watching things that are in your highest good, or doing things, or being called to do things that are in your highest good. And that's something that you can say is like a mantra. I know I say this myself every day, and I think you do as well. We actually, call upon our guides and say, what can I do to evolve more? Well, what can I do? Is there more that I need to be doing in terms of, living my soul purpose and being in my highest good, and bringing in and asking for those things to be brought to us. So you can do that as well in terms of what you're watching and what you're consuming. Ask your guides, say, please show me who I should be aligning with, who I should be watching, and get that through, allow those messages to come through to you, because you will be guided to watching people that resonate with you.
We just wanted to touch on a message that you received through one of your clients, and it was a little boy, I think, and he was talking about the right brain and how we have to focus on developing that so much more.
I've heard this message a few times, and I think today I had a session today with a young boy. I think I didn't speak with him directly. He didn't want to come on camera, but I spoke with his mother, and he's I think 11. And I felt the necessity to bring this up today, because it's probably the third or maybe even the fourth time I have been told this in a session in the last probably couple of weeks. So I thought, man, this is something that we probably should talk about. So I wanted to bring it up tonight. And what that is that because this society has been so focused, or that not the society, let's say the 3D, the matrix has been so focused on perpetually keeping us trained in the left brain mentality. So it's all about cognitive thinking, testing, memory, and think about in schools, memorization, following what you're told, nothing new, no new information. It's all about, history and the same math year after year, just different levels of the same thing. And then you go out into the world, and we have these jobs that are very analytically focused, and anything outside of that, it historically has been, if you're an artist or a writer or this, they're looked down upon as, oh, that's not a productive member of society. So everything is designed for us to be in left brain mentality, very cognitive, very thinkers. And what I was told in these sessions in different ways, but basically all meaning the same thing, is we have been so disconnected as a result of that through generations of time, that we have become very disconnected from the right brain, which is where our intuition is our creative side, our imagination. And when we're children, and we are only allowed to do art, for example, one time a week. Once a week, these kids get art. The rest of the time, it's math, science, reading, the core subjects. They don't get to do anything imaginative, nothing creative, but a very small fraction. Why is that? Why don't we devote time throughout our adulthood for creative and inspirational activities. And so we're very closed off on the right brain, and that's by design, so that we don't connect with our higher self, we don't trust our intuition, and we don't create. That's how you manifest. We manifest through creation, through imagination, visualization. That childlike imagination that we all had at one point, that many of us turned off because we didn't think that it was productive in any way, or we were put down. Oh, stop using your imagination. How many times have you heard that as a kid? And so what was interesting in this session, and which is why I want to bring it up, and I don't have this mother's permission to speak about this particular person, so I'm not going to give any details of his name or anything or where they live, but she had been getting that he needs right brain healing. And she keeps getting it over and over through healers that she has been bringing him to, because he's been dealing with some cognitive issues since these, but also she thinks that he's displaying characteristics of an advanced being. And so she was asking me, is it because of this or that, or is it a combination of? So we were looking into all these things, but she keeps getting right brain, right brain, right brain. And she said, Sherri, what are they saying? What do they mean by right brain? What does he need? What healing does he need on his right brain? And I said, I don't know. Let's find out. So in the session, what I was told by his higher self is, in actuality, he didn't need any healing. What he's trying to tell everybody is that is what the collective needs to focus on. We need to connect with our right brain. That is where the focal point should be right now in the collective, as part of 4D, is not only connecting to our higher self and going within, but doing things with our right brain. That is how we train ourselves to do that. So we need to do as much as we can right now as a collective, whether you're a child, a youth, or an adult, or elderly, doesn't matter. Grandma's 100 years old, she can do it. And it's all about right brain activities, because we need to reprogram and activate that part of ourselves that has lied dormant for all this time. That's where the ascension is really the activating point. That's the part of us that is the catalyst. So as much as we can to put the message out to humanity, start creative writing, paint, draw, anything that you can do to create, build. If you don't like art, you go out and build something with your hands. You imagine, use your imagination, whatever you can do to create, because that's the part of our brain that activates that right part of our brain that really will, as we strengthen that, we will connect to our intuition, and we will activate that part of ourselves for the next generation. And that is what he was saying. That is, he doesn't need it healed. We don't need it healed. We need it awakened. And that's where humanity is right now. We need to focus our attention, again, to creativity, because that's where we manifest. That's where we co-create. That's where the magic happens. And then once we have that, then we'll have a beautiful balance, and we'll be able to have both, because multidimensional beings have the ability to tap into both arenas. There's a balance there. And balance is important. We're not discounting the left brain. We need the left brain. It's very important. But we need to also be able to tap into the right, and then equally. So when we need each side, we're able to do that. And right now we cannot. And children come in with the ability to do both. If anything, they're a lot of times, not most, a lot of times they're more right brain. But there are children like mine, like I mentioned, where Skylar, he's always been more left brain. That's just who he is. And to get him to do right brain activities is like, I don't want to do it. So some people can be more connected to one or the other. But again, it also has to do with their personality and what they're here to do. But for the most part, that is where we should be focusing right now. And I think that that's a good thing to bring up tonight, because those watching that are looking for something to do with my time, how do I heal? How do I connect? Tap into your right brain. Look at all the things that connect to your right brain and start picking things out that you can do to help activate it. And a lot of it doesn't cost a penny. You can do these things for free. And I think that that was a really valuable point that I wanted to bring up tonight, because I think that is really important, and a great something tangible that people can walk away with and say, all right, great, I get it. I'm right brain. I'm going to focus on my right brain and tap into my creative side.
Going away and finding those activities to do is a little bit of action, but I think also the internet and things like that have made us become very lazy in that sense, and just autopilot. You know, this is what we need to not be doing, is living life on autopilot, really being mindful as much as you can. I know that word gets used a lot, and it's not to be silly about it. It's just to go, just keep reminding yourself, just be in those little moments, even doing the dishes or something so mundane. It just being in the moment of something very tactile like that, you know, you can just really tune into yourself in those moments. So getting out of that lazy vortex of just watching Netflix or whatever, but we don't have Netflix, but when people say that, you know, or just any videos, just like this.
What is even on Netflix? I didn't even know.
I don't know. This mindless kind of activities that we've been, you know, basically just molded into being. So anyway, we're going to segue on to our classes. As you mentioned, Sherri, for the month of March, we're focusing on mental and emotional wellness. And we've got so many amazing classes at the Aramis Creative Learning Center. And so please go to aramiscreativelearning.com if you want to check out the classes.
There are a lot of creative classes within there. In fact, every single class has the creative component. So even, you know, we do actually run some of the more academic subjects as well. We do have, say, for example, math. We have that in there, but there's a creative component to it. There's meditations within it. It's very interactive, and you will learn math concepts within that. And that's a great class. We have a lot of regulars with that one. So I'm just saying, even with those, you know, those types of subjects, we still integrate that level of interactivity and creation within that, and allowing children to be in that intuitive space, and allowing them, in a sense, to really guide the direction of the class as well, which is what all the classes that we design at the Aramis Creative Learning Center do. That's the fundamental components of those classes. So really focusing on children's emotional wellness during the month of March. So this goes throughout all of the classes all the time, year round, but we really wanted to hone in on that this month, as Julia and Sherri said earlier. So we wanted to actually give a couple of just examples of some of the classes we have. So they're all amazing.
Yeah.
So
we've got Tarot for Self-Growth. So that's a beautiful class. We've also got Expressive Dance. That's a new class that we have.
Movement's a great thing for creativity as well. You can be creative in movement, not just in art and things like that. Yeah.
We've also got The Emotional Nature of a Starseed. So if you're a starseed, that's a beautiful class to understand your emotions and how to work with them better.
We talked a lot about that today.
We did. We've got Abstract Expressionism, which is a beautiful art class. We've got a couple of different art classes, actually. We've got intuitive eating and just being really mindful with food choices. We've also got a dreams class for self-growth. So in understanding your dreams, interpreting your dreams, and helping you really understanding yourself on a better level.
Messages are being communicated in your dreams that can help you evolve and grow as a person.
Yeah.
And understand the emotions as well that you may be experiencing, because a lot of the emotions come out in your dreams. So, we have a spiritual science class, which is all about self-care this month. So again, we were talking about self-care earlier this chat.
We also have emotional connection and harmony, which is a sound class. And that's something that we didn't get to touch on in this chat today, but we will touch in another chat with you, Sherri, about vibration and sound and light language. And we did want to go into that in more depth, and telepathy and things like that. So we'll save that for another chat.
That's where I was going with that telepathy.
Yes.
Now.
Because that's a really interesting point that we want to hone in on. But I think we're out of time for today.
Yeah. So if you want more information on those classes, for this upcoming month and the classes we currently have, you can go to the aramiscreativelearning.com, and also if you would like to donate to the Aramis Collective as well, because any donations are always greatly appreciated. And Sherri, just if you wanted to just touch on that, where exactly, if people wanted to donate, obviously they can go to the aramiscollective.com/donations. That's the quickest way they can get there. But where do those donations go? Just to remind people, in case they're new to the channel and they want to contribute, where do those donations go?
Yeah, that's a good point. The donations are really valuable to us. We have a large team that works tirelessly. Carly and Julia work so much. I don't know what I would do without you both. Honestly, you give me the time to be able to do these other things, because these lovely ladies do all of the coordination with the mentors. They started out with a few, and like suddenly they've got most of them, and they coordinate all the classes every month. They put the schedule together. I don't know what I would do without you both. Shout out to these two ladies right here. I just got to say that really quickly. Like, I honestly love you guys so much. That's not even the word to describe how much the love is just not even big enough. So you guys are so valuable to me. But all the work that goes in, the legal fees, running the website, creating divinely guided children animation. We just did our 17th or 18th episode. I can't remember now, on Inner Earth, and it was absolutely spectacular. I think is my favorite episode. So the donations help fund those animations. There's a lot of coordination involved and a lot of expense that are involved in putting those together. Also, it helps the donations go towards any of the books that we create. The Divinely Guided Children books goes towards Sky Universal World that we're creating. It goes to saving up money for our first in-person location that we're looking for here in Florida. So we run on donations and the community support. So any amount is so appreciated. And so you can go on the Aramis Collective website. There's also links through the Aramis Creative Learning Center website as well. So any donation is welcome and always encouraged. And thank you so much to those that have already donated, that continue to donate, and that are thinking about donating. We really do appreciate them so much.
We absolutely do appreciate those donations.
We do. And also thank you for saying those things, Sherri. And we feel the same as well. And a big shout out to you for just driving this and keeping the momentum and the motivation and just this spark going. We appreciate that so much in you, and you inspire us every single day to be doing this. And you've been working tirelessly with all your interviews and your series and all those things. So I think, yeah, it's hard to comprehend sometimes how much like we're all putting into this and sometimes going blindly with it. You know, we just put our heads down every day and do the work, and you know, I guess it really just comes back to an overall vision and the fact that we all believe in the one thing. And I think that's why we keep going and it keeps flowing, because we all believe in the one same goal. And when you are all on the same page, things do work and they do flow. So we're very grateful for that, and that we've come together with you for this mission, Sherri.
Sherri is the captain of this ship, and we're helping her steer it, but she's the captain of the ship. And honestly, you know, there have been some icebergs along the way that we have to navigate around this course. So yes, it's a choppy course, but we are evolving it, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty in all of this, and we can see that every day. You know, the classes, that there's more classes where you have more teachers. You know, that there's more children joining, and they're from all over the world, and that is another one of the most beautiful aspects of the online component to this, is that you can meet children and teachers from all around the world. We cover a lot of different time zones, so you should be able to find something on the website that fits your time zone. And if you can't, it probably will be there next month if you want us to take a class. So yeah, look, it's we're going to continue to keep rolling on this and continue to keep the dream alive, and obviously with your help and donations, that makes it possible for us. So thank you again. Sherri, it's been a fabulous chat today, as always, and we always go off on a lot of different but really interesting tangents. So we never get through all of our notes, but that can always be held over for next time. So thanks to the audience for joining us as well.
All links will be below our channels to if you want to get in contact, emails, obviously donation links, all of our channels, YouTube channels, Calendula SoulTwins, and Sherri's YouTube channel, Instagram, Intuitive Wellness Living,
our Instagram and Telegram. That's all of it. In case you're listening, because sometimes I go and listen to things, and it's nice if you actually hear it rather than just see it. So,
is there anything you want to finish on, Sherri?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing really quickly. We just started something new. It's called Aramis Kids Club, and it's a free opportunity for children to just come together and just share artwork, talk, have fun, listen to music, whatever you want. And it's hosted by my daughter, Aramis, and she's really excited because she's been wanting to teach her own class for about a year, and she's 8. So I'm like, hold on, like, you know, just take all your time and let's find the right thing for you. So in the meantime, I've let her kind of take the reins and create a kids club. And we just did the first one last week, and she had a blast. There was about 5 children in it, and they had a great time, and she wants to do them. She says every day. It's not possible, so we're going to try to offer it a couple times a month. So please look out for that. We have the next 2 already up on the website in the American time zone section. It's called Aramis Kids Club. It is free. It's about an hour. And if your kids are interested and the time works out for them, have them join. There are limited spaces, but I think this is a really fun opportunity for the kids to just come together with no objective other than to just talk and have fun and meet kids all over the world. And I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that because I think she's so excited about it. And I think that it's just something fun for the kids to do for an hour, a couple times a month. So I just wanted to plug that really quickly. But thank you so much to you guys for having me on and continuing to drive this. I guess you don't drive a ship, to sail the ship forward with despite any road bumps. I know that this is divinely guided and encouraged, and so all the elements are just coming together beautifully, and the sky's the limit for us. And so I want to thank everybody watching that continues to support us and our vision, and to support me and what I'm doing, and to take the classes. We couldn't do this without all of you. So thank you to everybody.
Yes, thanks everyone. Thank you so much for your company today. We'll be back with another video very, very soon. And Sherri, we'll see you again very soon too.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.